Ladies and gentlemen, we want you to stand and we want you to make some noise.
Ladies and gentlemen, let's go racing here at Knoxville.
Only the best go three abreast.
It is show time at Williams Grove Speedway.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, here at Eldora Speedway, it's showtime!
You've got a for a breath. Often imitated, never duplicated. The greatest show on dirt, the world of outlaws.
It's time to sit back, relax, and enjoy because, ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime!
Set to do battle for 30 laps. The green flag is waving.
Hello again. It is Wing Nation talking sprint cars, our favorite time of the week. We are so glad that you have joined us. Erin, Evernham, Steve Post. This is a special edition of Wing Nation because, well, it's the 42nd annual Kings Royal, and why not? Let's talk to the man at the top of the feeding chain up at Eldora. Tony Stewart joins us. Hello, Tony. How are you?
I'm really excited right now. I'll be honest. I did not know I was at the top of the chain. I always felt like I was number 2 at Eldora at best. So I'm glad to get an upgrade today.
Well, we're glad to give you that upgrade, even if it's just Wing Nation giving the upgrade, knowing how things go up there. You know, it is cool. Tony, with a lot of racing we want to talk about, but the biggest thing is how's fatherhood? How's Dominic James? I mean, I'm a dad. Erin's obviously a mom. We know what it's done to us. But 9 months. What's your perspective? What's that been like?
I jokingly tell everyone, and keep in mind this is a joke. Some women have got very upset about this comment, but I literally joke around and say if I'd have known Lee and I were going to be in the position we're in now, I would have got her knocked up on the first date, knowing how much we enjoy Dominic. So fatherhood is amazing. He's a great little boy. He's always smiling, always laughing. I honestly feel like this kid should be getting a salary this year with the race team. And somebody says, why is that? I said, because when we have a bad day, and you know, Richmond was a perfect example of the 3 qualifying rounds we had. It never made it past 60 feet down the racetrack this year. And oddly enough, when you get back after that at the end of the day and you're frustrated, you're confused because you don't understand why it's not going down the racetrack, what it is we're fighting. And you walk in that door and you see Dominic smiling, you forget about the bad runs and you just don't care anymore because all you care about is seeing that smiling face. So, it's amazing. He's I tell everybody he's my emotional support human at this point. So when things aren't going good, he's the one I go see because he just has this way of making you forget about what's going on with the rest of your life at that point.
Whenever I have a friend that is getting ready to have a child, I say everything that was number 1 in your life will become number 2. And Erin, that's definitely Kate. I know you with Kate. I see you with Kate, and mine are 23.
Yeah, Kate's actually here in studio today with Kreger. She's pushing buttons.
Mine are 23 and 26. So I'm telling you, and there's a little bit of the time you all are spending with your younger ones that are really cool. But it's really neat. So.
No, I love to hear that perspective, Tony. I've known you for a long time, and I think you're a wonderful father, and it's been really neat to see that. Has it changed? Like Steve said, you know, you actually become number 2 when you have a child. Have you felt that, like, that priorities shift a little bit?
The dynamic in the family has definitely shifted. I went from number 2 to I feel like I'm not even on the podium anymore. It's I'm like a distant 8th or 10th, it seems like. But you know, that's because Leah does such a great job. She is definitely the concrete foundation of our family. She's been trained for this. She doesn't realize that she's been training for this moment because she's still trying to raise me. So before Dominic came along, she was already in training, and then it's just made it easier now that Dom's here that she's had some practical knowledge going into it. But we are both getting ready to get into a stage that's getting ready to be one of these life steps with Dominic that he's now crawling, and somehow he's got a 2-speed transmission we've found because he's got the Army crawl going. He's just figuring out how to use the knees with it. But when he gets locked on something he really wants, he grabs a second gear and he goes twice as fast. we have no idea how he's doing this so far, but we're getting ready to get into a spot where, child-proofing the house and the ranch and everywhere we go, everything that we have, it is now becoming a 3-dimensional puzzle versus a 2-dimensional puzzle.
That is awesome. Gosh, that is so cool, Tony. It really, truly is. So it is the week of the 42nd annual Kings Royal there at Eldora Speedway. I literally was like, okay, how long has Tony owned Eldora? 10, 12, no, 21 years, Tony. Does that even seem possible?
No.
Or does it seem like 50 years?
No, it seems like 10 to me, honestly. But yeah, we bought Eldora at the end of 2004, I think in December. And I remember Earl and Bernice and myself and the lawyers being up in this office building at the law firm in downtown Indianapolis. And I remember I called it the accordion because they pull this thing out and stretch it like an accordion. And then they start placing all these files and these manila envelopes in it. And I'm like, we're buying a racetrack, right? We're not buying a country. But that's how much paperwork was involved in it. But it's crazy to think of where we started and the 2005 season being our first year as track owners and operators at Eldora was a lot of fun. I remember the very first thing that I got a phone call on. And this is for people that think all these track operators and owners, they think all the track operators do is they unlock the gates, they turn the lights on, they sell hot dogs, Cokes, and beer, and pay the teams and the drivers at the end of the night, and they go home and they spend the next week and a half, 2 weeks counting money. That's what the race fans truly believe goes on at racetracks. And literally the very first phone call I got was about a sewage project that we were going to have to do that was going to cost between $300,000 and $400,000, and that was to move waste from the track up like 10 miles. And there were like 2 lift stations involved and all kinds of stuff that we had to do. But that was my very first task with Eldora Speedway was that. So anybody that says, hey, buy a racetrack, it'll be great. Buy a race team, it'll be great. Yeah, there's so many things that people have no idea what it takes to operate all this stuff. But yeah, it's been a labor of love. I am surrounded by a fantastic staff at Eldora. A lot of these people have worked with Earl and Bernice for years before I came into the picture and are just as passionate, if not more passionate about Eldora than I am. So I am surrounded by great people. I got a great friend in Levi Jones that's now the general manager there. And man, I mean, his enthusiasm and leadership that he has and the way that he's working with everybody is just really put my mind at ease. It's given me a lot more time to focus on other things that we have in our portfolio with what we've got going on. But I know that we're in really good hands with Levi and his family, Heidi and the boys. I mean, they're a great family, and they definitely have Eldora's best interest at heart.
Yeah, Levi's such a wonderful person. I obviously knew him from his USAC days, but then he helped with SRX. So got to see him in the management mode. So I was really happy to see that he was taking over the reins at Eldora. Tony, when you think about the evolution, since you've had Eldora, you've had the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series, you had the Prelude. You just think about how these big marquee events have really grown. How much pride do you take in that? I know you have such a strong passion for short track racing, but how much pride do you take in what you've done with what Earl and Bernice started?
I take a lot of pride, honestly, Erin. It's, I think, and this was something that I was really proud of, and that a lot of people really were caught off guard when I told them this. Every project that I did once I bought the racetrack till we lost Earl and until we lost Bernice, and especially Earl. I mean, if I had a project that I had in mind, I always went to Earl with it first and said, this is what I'm thinking. What do you think? And I think that's probably the most fun I had interacting with Earl was during these moments, because there were a lot of times I would have an idea and I'd go to him with it. And he's like, man, I always wanted to do that. That was the one that would always make me smile, was when I felt like I was really in tune with Earl and what he wanted to do and with ideas that came along. But I don't think there was ever a project or an idea that we had that he didn't like. Some of me liked more than others, obviously, but there was never a time that I said, hey, I'm thinking about this. What do you think? And there was never a moment that he said, I think it's a bad idea, or I think you should do a different way. But he always had his own list of projects and ideas that he had. Obviously, Earl was such a great promoter always thought outside the box. And so that was something that when we took over Eldora Speedway, we wanted to continue that and do big things and do big projects. And obviously bringing the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series there was huge. We tried so hard to try to get an Xfinity or Cup race there, and Bristol got to steal that idea away from us. But I was proud of what we did there. I mean, we definitely made a lot of mistakes the first couple of years. There was, it may have been the first year even. I remember the afternoon practice session, they literally had to red flag it because there was no wind and there was so much dust that you could not see the backstretch. And it wasn't because just of dust in general. I created the dust, unfortunately. So there were a lot of things that I've learned from some of those experiences that were outside the box that helped me today. And that, we'll get calls from other racetracks of saying, hey, we got this problem. Do you have any ideas how to fix it? And some of the things are lessons that I learned that I did wrong. But then there's other track promoters that I do the same thing. I mean, Reese O'Connor from Kokomo, I have a direct line to him pretty much. Anytime I've got an idea or question with the surface, I call Reese immediately. He's one of my best resources. But it's been fun this whole time of, just trying to always think about everything that we do. We always try to think of Earl, even though we've lost Earl and he's passed. Anytime I have an idea, I still have that mindset of, would Earl approve of this before I ever pulled a pin on it? So I think our latest project was redoing the ballroom at Eldora. And for years, it just had stayed stagnant. We were doing year-end award ceremonies there, corporate events, but it needed a facelift. And it was probably one of the biggest things that Jerry Gappins did before we lost him, unfortunately, that I would say that Jerry was 100% responsible for what it looks like right now. I remember leaving one of the big events we had there, and I was pulling out on Sunday morning, and Jerry goes, "Are you still here?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I just fired the truck up and was getting ready to pull out in the motorhome." And he goes, come by the ballroom before you leave. And he showed me the truss system that was up above this drop ceiling that we had at the ballroom at the time. And I had never been up there, had never seen it. And we go up this dark, dirty staircase, and there's bats flying around up there. I'm like, is this where I'm going to die? Are you murdering me up here today? And he took a flashlight and shined it across all these beams. And I'm like, oh my God, I cannot believe we're hiding this with drop ceiling. So, fans now this year, the ballroom's open. We're cooking in there. We've had a wedding. We've had wedding receptions, corporate events, you name it. But on big weeks, obviously it's open all week, and people can go get something to eat. They can hang out. We have plenty of TVs there where they can watch the action. So I'm encouraging a lot of people that are going to Eldora, not necessarily for the first time, but people that have gone for years and never been in the ballroom, definitely stop in. You're going to like the atmosphere there. So, but it's just been a lot of fun. I mean, there's just been so many things that we've done, so many things, bringing SRX there, the truck series, the Prelude, so many things that nobody was doing at the time. And now to be able to sit here, I guess 20 plus years later now, and think back at what we've done some pretty big things. But we had a great template to work off of and a great leader with Earl and Bernice that laid the foundation for us just to keep continuing his work.
So many neat new ideas and different ideas, but Eldora is also known for the big marquee events, the Dream, the World 100, the King's Royal. How have those events evolved? I mean, we have the King's Royal this weekend, and of course, High Limit coming in and doing a couple shows, and World of Outlaws a couple shows. But in general, how have those big events, how have they evolved?
Yeah, and that's you're hitting the nail on the head. I mean, they keep evolving, they keep changing. Now we have 2 national touring series with the 410 wing sprint cars, and trying to create a balance of making High Limit happy and bringing them to Eldora, but not offending World Racing Group and World of Outlaws, and how we've been able to work together and be able to bring both of those series in the same week for a big, massive weekend at Eldora. That took a little bit of work, but both Brad and Kyle on the high limit side, and Brian Carter on the World Racing Group side with the World of Outlaws. They're both great partners. Obviously, we've got a lot longer relationship with World Racing Group and the World of Outlaws, but great opportunity to have two great series there and bring the best sprint car drivers in the country and in the world, in all honesty, and bring them to one major venue for 4 great days of racing. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Tony, when you look at the purse increase for the Kings Royal and now the Joker's Jackpot, all of it, and then you look across the board with sprint car racing now. I mean, $250,000 to win at Huset's, and Knoxville's crazy now. What are your thoughts about? I mean, I guess we probably all thought that sprint car racing deserved bigger purses for years, but how neat is it to see it now happening, and you're providing it with your events?
Well, I think we were one aspect of it, but I truly give the credit for that to Brad and Kyle at this point. I mean, yeah, the purses were going up a little bit each year, but once High Limit came into it, it put a massive push on purses, both from World of Outlaws side and what High Limit was trying to do. And honestly, I mean, it reminds me of a conversation that I had with my good friend Johnny Morris from Bass Pro Shops from years and years ago. And I remember being in a car with him, and it was just him and I one night. And I thought I knew what the answer was going to be to this question, but I just wanted to hear his response to it. And I asked him, this was before Johnny and Bass Pro had acquired Cabela's. And I said, what's your true feeling on Cabela's? And he totally caught me off guard with his answer. He goes, they make me better. And I thought, he's going to hate them. He can't stand them. They, it's like the Lowe's and Home Depot thing. If one's there, the other one builds across the street. And I truly thought that he was going to have an answer that wasn't pleasant. And I think it really kind of ties into what we're talking about with sprint car racing right now. High Limit coming in made World of Outlaws become better, made Dirt Vision better. High Limit coming in, the purses going up, bringing Flow Sports involved. Flow had already been a partner of ours with Eldora before that, and with the AllStar, so we had a good relationship with them as well. But I think for both series, they both raised the bar together. I think it took Brad and Kyle to kind of start that movement of creating competition for World Racing Group in a stance that it forced them to have to react. And because of that, now we've got 2 great series that are paying great money. There's multiple tracks now, like you mentioned. I mean, we had $1 million event with the wing sprint cars. The Earl had the Mopar Million, where it paid $200,000 to the winner of that event for the non-wing side. But now, like you said, Jackson and Huset's and Knoxville. I mean, now we've got big venues with big paying purses, and it's just benefiting everyone. It's drawn great crowds. It's drawn great competition. And the racing's been good. So, I mean, I think we're probably in the healthiest spot we've ever been on a wing sprint car side, just sprint car racing in general. But I think in particular, the wing racing has probably grown more than any other side of sprint car racing in the last 10, 20 years.
Tony, you talked about Dirt Vision and Flow Racing and that, and we know the history of this sport. TNT or TNN had a bunch of television races. I go back to Pat Patterson when he had the series out west. Thursday night, Fox Sports 1 going to be bringing the action of the Joker's Jackpot. Just describe how important that is, that you're able to present the track that they get to do that on.
Well, I think we're fortunate to be able to do that. But yeah, it just comes with that evolution. I mean, like you mentioned, TNT used to do it back in the day, and I never missed a race on TNT when they were doing it in Diamond P at Devil's Bowl. And then when they would go out to Arizona and go to Manzanita and do the Winter Series, I mean, that we all were glued to our TVs. Right. Now you got such a large streaming presence with Dirt Vision and huge presence with Flow Sports. You have that same access, but now to sit there and have FS1 broadcasting our race at Eldora, that's something that I am super excited about, super proud that we get to be a partner in that and be a piece of the action. So I think it's great. It's just going to help bring people that maybe casual dirt track fans or maybe new dirt track fans, it's going to give them an opportunity to see a big event at a big venue with the best drivers in the world. So I think it's a great thing for our sport. Hopefully weather cooperates and we have great track conditions to put on a great show for everyone, so it goes over well.
Yeah, we are spoiled with Dirt Vision and Flow, but there's something really neat about some live television. Tony, you also mentioned the AllStar Circuit of Champions, a series that you used to own. How neat is it for you to see it coming back, and how do you feel like that, or how important is that piece of the puzzle in sprint car racing to have more of a regional series like the All-Stars?
It's absolutely needed, obviously. I mean, Ohio, Pennsylvania are probably the two biggest states, I feel like, for wing sprint car racing. And that's where the All-Stars, have their roots. So for Brad and Kyle to continue that tradition with the All-Stars, my intention when I bought the All-Stars originally, I was not trying to be a series owner. I didn't really, it was not a passion of mine to be a series owner. Anybody that's owned a racetrack or has ever ran or operated a series realizes that you are the first ones that get blamed if anything goes wrong. And when everything goes right, you're lucky if one person puts their hand on your shoulder and says, "Hey, thanks for a great night." But the whole goal was just to fix it. I mean, it was in a bad state. There were two different groups, the All-Stars and another group that were at odds with each other and going to divide it. And ultimately, we were able to save it, bring it back to one, keep the All-Stars alive. And I felt like we grew it. I felt like we made a lot of mistakes along the way. There was some turnover and some calls that were made during the time that I owned it that I wish we could go back and change. But all in all, I feel like we did everything for the right reason and we saved it. And, being able to sell all of it to Brad and Kyle, Brad is all sprint car racing. Unfortunately for me, I've got all these other ventures. I had 4 Cup teams, 2 Xfinity teams, 3 quarter midget teams. Everything that we've got going on with Eldora and everything, it's too hard to spend enough time and energy to do what Brad and Kyle are able to do now. And Brad's really the one towing the rope the hardest on that. I mean, he's just so invested in it and very appreciative that somebody like Brad took the All-Stars and then has created High Limit and continuing to keep the All-Star name alive.
Really, truly is neat to see what's happening in it. And we had Brian Brown on a couple of months ago, and he talked about the sheer number of teams that are running professionally in sprint car racing now. And he almost and Brownie was certainly on one side of the fence. When I first talked to Brownie, he was certainly on one side of the fence. He's like, now I'm not sure that one would work because there's so many teams running full time. We've always used Bill Baylog as our poster child for this, but it really has provided an opportunity across the board for so many teams to run for 410 sprint car racing.
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned Bill because I remember going to some of the IRA races with him and man, every time I went to those races, he was the guy that I enjoyed racing with the most. I mean, he raced you hard, but absolutely raced with the utmost respect, raced you clean. And I remember after a race one night, we were staying in a victory lane. And I'm like, when are you going to start touring? I said, you are too big to stay in the IRA. I said, you and your team have the talent and the capability to be competitive at the highest level. And so to see him this year doing so well with the Outlaws, I mean, it brings a smile to my face that, this was probably 5, 6, 7 years ago we had that conversation. And to finally see him on the road and doing as well as he's doing, he deserves it. So you're right. I mean, there's not one series that's capable of it. To sit there, and if you had 20 or 24 full-time teams that were trying to run either one of those series, they would not be able to stay afloat because the tow money, the purse or the year-end point fund money, the series would not be able to sustain itself with that much investment. So, we kind of always felt like 10 to 12 was kind of the sweet spot to have full-time touring teams that were supporting the series full-time. You're always going to get enough teams to come in and fill the rest of that are good quality cars. But to sit there and support the tow money and the year-end point fund money is not sustainable really over that with the business models the way they are. So I think there's absolutely room for two. I think there's times when you're watching a race and you're like, man, you wish the rest of the guys were there. But, then as a promoter, I'm going, yeah, but that's why we have Kings Royal. That's why we have the Knoxville National, the Jackson National, the big races at Huset's. That's why these big venues are paying big money to have the opportunity to have all those guys at their races. So, right now it's working.
Yeah, Tony, my next question, you just hit on it. When you have all the guys come together, your races, Knoxville, the competition level in sprint car racing right now with the 2 series, you say, it makes everyone better. To me, it seems like the quality of cars, teams, and the competition level is higher than it's ever been. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely, because you don't have the era of Carl Kinzers and Steve Kinzers anymore. I mean, everybody's got the same stuff. It's just a matter of who's executing it the best. Who are the crew chiefs are really one of the biggest variables, I feel like now. That everybody has the same access to the same equipment. It's just a matter of who's the smartest guys of putting the right package under their driver. There's enough great drivers to fill an A main at any race, any day of the week, that could go out and literally win races. It's just a matter of which team provides that car that gives that driver the best feel that they're looking for. So I agree. I think we're probably in the healthiest situation, both financially and talent level wise, whether it's teams, drivers, across the board that we've ever seen in the sport right now.
Okay, so we've talked about big picture stuff, and we've talked about Eldora team owner Tony Stewart with the highly decorated Donnie Shots program. And face it, we understand, you understand, Donnie understands it's not where you guys want it to be. What's all going on there, and what are you guys working on with Donnie and that program?
It seems to be a moving target, unfortunately. Okay. One of the biggest variables, obviously, that was a huge change was the motor program. And, we're still a part of the Ford program. We're just we all are kind of caught in a bad spot. So it's ourselves and Rudine Racing that are still a part of the Ford program. Kind of Kevin's taken that under his wing at this point. Just got backed in a corner on parts. Unfortunately, it's not because a lack of performance with the motors. The motors are going to be fine. It's just a matter of getting caught up. And, Ford unfortunately has had to go to multiple foundries to try to produce the heads and the blocks the way that we're trying to build them to where they're going to be durable and sustainable. But it has been probably one of the biggest projects that I have ever been a part of. And the growing pains of it have been enormous. But Donnie, when you give him what he wants and what he's looking for, it is hard to beat Donnie Shots. Yeah. I mean, he's got talent and he does things with a car that nobody else in sprint car racing does. The hard part's just getting all those variables right for him. So, obviously going down the path of the motor program and the way the shock programs have evolved now, I mean, those are probably the 2 biggest areas that we have to focus on. Like I said, everybody else has exactly the same stuff everywhere else. Those are the 2 biggest variables: motor programs and shock packages. So those are the 2 areas that we've been focusing on, and obviously made a huge change on the motor side, and got a lot of help from our good friend Paul Kistler. We kind of saw some of the roadblocks happen and that we were going through this year. We kind of saw some of this before the winter coming up, and I got myself on the list to get a couple of Paul's motors. So that was something that needed to happen, that we needed to have as an insurance policy, and didn't want to have to use it. But obviously we're now in that predicament. So, but the great thing is Donnie seems to be pretty happy with Paul's motors at this point. So that's a variable we check off the list. We just got to get the rest of it in line for him. But, as time and things evolve, I mean, somehow we've got behind the 8 ball and we're not being able to produce what he's looking for at this point. So we just got to keep plugging away at it. And it just unfortunately seems like night to night, it's kind of a moving target on what that variable is that we're missing out on.
It's just fascinating to hear you talk about the part shortage or the part challenges with Ford, I actually was out at the Trophy Cup, and I love chatting with Ron Shaver. Ron Shaver is just one of my favorite people. And he literally said to me just off the cuff, he said, I'm really worried about getting Ford parts going forward. He says, the same thing. We're just not able to get the durable parts and pieces that we need. And I'm like, okay. And that's a problem across the board. But then all of a sudden, like 6 months later, I'm reading the press release where it's like, oh, wait a minute. Ron told me about this last fall. And so it is such a big dynamic, such a challenge, that's for sure.
Absolutely. Well, and you're in good hands with Paul Kistler. He was always one of my favorites. Tony, I was curious on a more personal note. I know you wear 17 different hats and you now have a family and you're big in your NHRA career, but do you miss driving a sprint car?
Oh my God, absolutely. The worst part about it is I still have one of my cars at TSR that's sitting there, and our guys are like, we'll get one of Don's cars down. We'll take your car, whatever you want to do. It's available anytime. The hardest part now, which I absolutely hate more than anything to have to admit, is I couldn't run a sprint car race now if I wanted to. I couldn't make it past hot laps without needing oxygen. So I would have to do like everybody else that races. If you're not racing full time, you got to go to a gym. And I never trust anybody that's named Jim and he spells it GYM. So I don't trust those. I'm not a big fan of them. But yeah, if I wanted to run a sprint car again, it's definitely available. I miss it all the time. Every time I turn either a live stream on or go to a race or whatever, I miss being in the field with those guys. It is still my number one passion in motorsports is wing sprint car racing. But I have to put a lot of work in to get myself in a position to do with these guys that are doing it 70, 80, 90 nights a year on the road. I mean, if you're not running that much, you're already in a hole. And I'm 54 now. And when I drive hard, I'm only driving for 4 seconds really hard. And the rest of the time you're doing all the other stuff it takes to get ready for it. But yeah, I don't need to be going to a gym a lot other than just to maintain weight to drive the dragster. To drive a wing sprint car, you better be fit, because I would say between watching the guys run wing sprint cars and dirt late models, that's probably two of the most physically demanding race cars you're ever going to drive. So I've got nothing but respect for the guys that drive both of those classes. And I know for sure I am not race fit anymore to be able to just say, you know what, I'm going to show up Friday and I'm going to drive. It would be fun watching the EMTs have to put oxygen masks on me to revive me after hot laps.
Well, I'll tell you what, those 4-second runs are going very, very well, Tony. Just what does it mean to you? You're IndyCar champion. You come to NASCAR. You're champion multi-times there, Hall of Fame there. You go sprint car racing. You win some World of Outlaw races. What does this chapter mean, though, that you can now start to be real competitive with the dragsters?
Yeah, it's a drastic change from where we were last year with our program. I mean, literally the year before I started driving the car, Leah was literally in the finals against Doug Coletta, and whoever won that race was going to win the world championship. And, Doug beat Leah, unfortunately, and it's kind of bittersweet. I mean, I think the world of Doug Coletta, we raced with each other and competed for the championship in USAC in 95 in the sprint car class. So Doug and I have a history there, and we're great friends at the drag races. Even when we're racing against each other, we got a ton of respect for each other. But I get in after Leah's almost won a world championship, and then I can't even hardly line up. I mean, we just struggled to figure out what the car wanted last year. And we literally went down to Bradenton, Florida for the Pro Superstar Shootout. And the unfortunate part was between 2.5 days of testing and the 2.5 days of the event, we made 14 runs, and it only went down the racetrack 3 of those 14 runs. Ooh. So I'm super proud of Neil and Mike Domagal's co-crew chief. Ryan McGilvery is the car chief. They dragged this thing back to Indiana after Bradenton to get ready for the NHRA opener at Gainesville, and yard sailed the program. And another person that was huge in that process was Phil Schuler, who came on board with the funny car side. And Phil really sat down with Mike and Neil and kind of helped get us in a good direction to come to the Gator Nationals. And literally we had 2 days of testing. We had one of the qualifying days get rained out. We made it down the racetrack 8 to 10 runs. And one of those, nobody during the session made it down the run. The track had kind of dried out during testing, and just one of those runs, nobody made it down. So the completion rate was much higher. We finally felt like we were in a window where the car was at least going down the racetrack. And once you can get it going down the racetrack, then you can worry about making it go faster. But until you can make it consistent, it's impossible to try to make cars go faster when you don't know why it's throwing up on itself on the starting line. So I'm way happier with where our program is this year. Winning 2 events and being the point leader at this point is something we're extremely proud of. But it's just like what I told our team the day that we got the points lead. I said, it's hard to get to the top. It's even harder to stay there. So I would say we're fighting harder than ever, trying to improve our program. I feel like some of the areas that we were behind on, we've caught up a little bit in. But it's also created some other issues that we're having to work around now. So it is constantly in a state of evolution with the nitro teams. And, Matt's starting to get performance that he's looking for on the funny car side. So I feel like we're both starting to get in really good spots that we're happy with. And obviously we're midway through the season. We're just past the halfway before the countdown starts for us on the point side. And, we're just plugging away at it. But yeah, I'm much happier knowing that when we show up at the racetrack, that I have the mindset that we're going to race this weekend. We're not just showing up going, man, I hope this thing goes down the racetrack tomorrow. We're now in a spot where we know when we go to the line that we're racing the guys next to us, not just worrying about whether the car is going to go down the racetrack or not.
Listening to you, it's fascinating to me. I believe one of the true blue facts of motorsports is you'll solve a problem and create another weakest link. You'll solve a problem and create another weakest link. And just listening to you talk, that has got to be one of the biggest facts of all motorsports. It's the case across the board with everything.
It really is. And everything's technology driven. The thing is, we're not going to stop technology. And I know it's the hardest thing for late models and sprint cars. Every form of motorsports fights it. And, there's companies and the teams are always thinking outside the box, and it's the sanctioning bodies to try to keep everybody reeled in and try to keep it affordable. But it is a challenge. And I think that's probably one of the things that's probably most frustrating for me on the NHRA side is that, when Erin and I would get in the sprint car and we'd push off, we knew that we were going to be the determining factor in the success of that race car. On the drag race side, it's a little different dynamic where I felt like I was 70% of the equation when I drove the sprint car. I'm now 30% of the equation on the drag racing side. Neil and Mike, they are the 70% of that equation. The success of that car is mainly in their hands. So it's a little tougher when you're a driver that likes to be in control and likes to be the determining factor. Yeah. To know that every time you suit up, you're not necessarily going to be in that role. I think what I do like about it is I wish every run that we ran on eliminations on race day, everybody had to smoke the tires and pedal the car. I feel like if we did that, we would win a lot of races. And Justin Ashley, who's the best lever in the Top Fuel class, best reaction times of anybody in the class, stopped me after I think it was our first round at Pomona at the opener this year after Gainesville. And I had to pedal the car, and Justin won his round right behind us and got out of his car, still suited up, still helmet on, runs over to him. He goes, "You have got to teach me how to pedal." And I go, "All you got to do is just drive a sprint car for 20 years. You'll figure it out." And I should have said, "I'll teach you how to pedal if you'll teach me how to cut 0.30 reaction times on the tree." So, but it's that's one of the aspects that I feel like that I am able to bring to the table is when we have to pedal the car and get the tires caught up and get going again. But man, it is a incredible ride to sit there from a standing start and go 1,000 feet and you're running over 330 miles an hour. It's just insane.
Cannot imagine. That is for sure. Tony, you have been so gracious with your time. We appreciate it this weekend, the 42nd annual Kings Royal at Eldora Speedway. It's going to be a big, big week. When you get ready for one of these weekends, what's your level of excitement? Are you crossing the checklist off of things we did? Or are you sitting back and watching? How do you approach a big weekend like this?
Well, the great thing is I'll be there Wednesday night. Unfortunately, Thursday morning, I got to get on the plane and I have to fly all the way out west to Seattle for our event starting on Friday. So It's only the second Kings Royal that I'll have missed. Last year being the first one because of the same situation, but I have never missed a Kings Royal since we own the racetrack, and even before that, as a team owner, I don't think I ever missed one. So it's hard to not be there. The good thing is because of streaming and all the access that we have, I will be glued to my phone, to the TV in the lounge. We will not miss a lap that happens at the racetrack, but it is hard to not be there in person. But like I said, really proud to have High Limit there for 2 days, and then really honored to have the World of Outlaws there and have their group helping us run the Kings Royal for us this weekend. So we will not miss a beat. I just, hate not being there with our staff and our people. But like I said, having Levi and everyone there, we're in great hands.
You certainly are. That is for sure. Tony, thanks for the time.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Tony Stewart joining us here on Wing Nation. Stay with us, more in just a moment.
3, 2, 1, start your engine.
The NASCAR channel is streaming now, exclusively on Tubi. Go deeper into NASCAR with 24/7 news, documentaries, and explore the vault of timeless NASCAR stories and unforgettable races. From crushing defeats to the thrill of victory. The NASCAR channel, always on, always free. Only on Tubi.
It is Wing Nation. Wow. What a visit with Tony Stewart. What a journey. What an amazing, amazing conversation. It just comes down to just Tony.
Yeah.
It just comes down to Tony being Tony.
He's still just so genuine. And Tony has done that, been there. I mean, he, like we talked about how many businesses and teams and tracks, like it's just always awesome to hear. He's won in everything.
It's so cool. It really, truly is. And he is a member of the NASCAR Hall of Fame. Let's talk about the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame and Museum. Today, birthday, Ricky Hood, 2006. I had a chance to hang out with Ricky Hood and talk to him. Man, what a cool dude. He was in the military in Texas. Military could fly for free, and he would fly to Memphis every weekend on a free plane to run a sprint car. And that's how kind of all got started, him and Hooker and everyone out there. So Ricky Hood, 2006 inductee into the National Sprint Car Hall of Fame. SprintCarHof.com. That's SprintCarHof.com. Tonight, the Brad Doty Classic. Woo-hoo. That's going to be awesome. That is going to be awesome. It was great catch up with Brad last week. And Erin, this week, it's the 42nd running of the Kings Royal at Eldora.
Yep. Like we talked about with Tony, Wednesday night starts with the High Limit Double Down Duels. Thursday on FS1, the High Limit Racing Joker's Jackpot, $100,000 to win. Friday, we're on with the World of Outlaws. The night before the Kings Royal. And then Saturday, the big one, the Kings Royal, $200,000 to win.
And about the only other thing across the country, there's a lot of racing across the country, but do you want to mention this? NARC King of the West is at Ocean Speedway for the Howard Kading Classic. Going to be a special one because this is the first Howard Kading Classic without Howard. So I know it's going to be a big, big time out there. So we are grateful for Tony Stewart joining us. We're grateful for you joining us as well. We're on all of the social media platforms. You can check us out there. Enjoy the Kings Royal this weekend or wherever you take in sprint car racing. She's Erin Evernham. I'm Steve Post. Thanks for joining us this time here on Wing Nation.